Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of People Who Say They Know the Owner, but they really don't. And the stories are super embarrassing, but entertaining nonetheless. In this episode, there's 5 stories, so sit back and enjoy the cringiness. I hope you stay for the stories today and subscribe for future videos. Let's get into it. I work at a local car wash chain where my job is to dry off the cars most of the time. I also do other details like cleaning windows, waxing cars, vacuuming, etc. A while back, I flagged someone out to collect their payment ticket so they could leave. The man notices a few dirty spots on the car, which is normal, and that's when he just starts to yell at me for doing a horrible job. Like, dude, I know you have a brand new car, but relax, it's a few water spots. The owner of the car wash sees the guy yelling at me and walks over to see what was wrong, causing the man to start yelling at him about how we did a terrible job and how he wants his money back, and then he says he's best friends with the manager and he's gonna get us fired. The thing is, he name-dropped the old manager who's no longer with us. Well, after that, my owner just starts laughing at him and says, "Well, if you were such good friends with the old manager, then you would have known he died 3 months ago." The customer immediately stops dead in his tracks, makes an embarrassed expression, apologizes, tells us it's okay, and takes off. The manager's not dead. My owner just has a slight twisted sense of humor. The manager's alive and well, and working at another location of ours. God, I love my job. My dad owns a franchise of a retail store that also does dog grooming. I'm really good friends with his head groomer since we share the same rare name and we're both huge nerds. So I was visiting her one day, and when I walked in, she was being yelled at by this woman. She was yelling at her about how she was not happy with the groom she had the other day and how she has dinner plans with the owner and she'll make sure to tell him how bad her service was. From being in the sub all the time, my first thought was, oh, this is gonna be good. And then I remembered, wait, my dad is the owner. Who's this lady claiming to have dinner with him? I didn't say anything because my friend can hold her own, and my dad obviously has her back since he trusts her work. This woman was really mad and had been offered a regroom to fix whatever she didn't like. Not good enough apparently. She wanted free dog food, store credit, and multiple free grooms for the inconvenience. I'm trying not to laugh, and my friend has had enough. My friend looks at me and then looks back at the customer and says, "I'll go get Dan, he can assist you." My friend then says that he's the manager and that the manager will be able to assist her with this because she's not authorized for store discounts, etc. This lady got a huge, smug look on her face, like she's winning the battle. My friend walks out with my dad, and the lady explains her situation. She says in the kindest voice ever, "So, I had a groom done the other day, and it was totally messed up. Very unacceptable. I was wondering if you can authorize some free grooms and some free dog food and possibly store credit." My dad looks at her and ignores everything she just says, and he says, "I was told that you have dinner plans with me tonight. I'm the owner." The lady sputters in disbelief, dumbfounded that she'd just been caught in her little act, and she just stands there. My dad sees the situation's getting really awkward and says, "If you want to regroom, we'll gladly fix what you didn't like. Other than that, there's nothing else we can do. You can either accept the free groom or take your business elsewhere." I love hanging out at my dad's work. He doesn't believe that the customer's always right. And we also teamed up on another lady for being a terror, but that's a different story. At my retail store, I'm the head cashier, and that basically means they trust me with the cigarettes. We have several signs posted that request for ID for anyone suspected to be underage. We get underage people every now and then, and the best ones are the teenagers who don't know how to buy cigarettes and walk in with a random older person and then point at the cigarettes in front of me and insist they're for them. That pretty much never works. Another good one is that some teenagers come in and they try to get out of showing ID because, quote, "Trust me, they're for my dad sitting in the car." This one day, however, I got the best excuse for trying to get out of showing ID. The teenager says, "Hey, can I buy a pack of smokes?" I replied, "You got ID?" And he says, "I know the owner of the store." I'm thinking, oh, scary. I knew he was totally lying to me, so I decided to play along and said, "Oh, you do? I'm actually new here. I just started. I met the owner once, and I totally forgot his name. What's the name again?" The teenager says, I forgot, but trust me, he's good friends of mine." And I said, "So you don't know your good friend's name, but you remember his place of occupation and his job?" He says to me, "It just totally slipped my mind. He's actually my parents' friend who comes over all the time." Since the store owner happened to be in the back doing some paperwork, I decided to keep yanking his chain and tell him that I'll go get my superior from the back room so they can authorize this because I'm just a cashier. So a little bit about the owner that he doesn't know is that she's female, not a guy. I went to the back, told her what happened, and her, having a great sense of humor, decided to come out and play this little game. She comes out front by the till, and I ask, "So since you know the owner and he comes to your parents' place all the time, have you ever seen her?" He says, "No, she must be new here, but I'm in a hurry. I really need these smokes." After this request, the owner politely tells him that she can't serve him and for him to leave. His response was, "But you're new here. You don't have the authority to kick me out." She responds, "I've been here since the store first opened 5 years ago. I'm the owner, and no one here is going to sell you cigarettes without an ID. Now get out before I call the cops." He left and said something about us being dumb and that we'll never get his business again. Good. I used to work in a casino's in-house showroom, selling show tickets and all that stuff. The layout at the time was tables with chairs and booths, both of which sat 4 people comfortably. There was one double-sized booth, dead center in the theater, and instead of the usual markings like B2 and D21 and what have you, it didn't have a marking. That's because it was the owner's booth. The owner, as in the owner of the entire casino. The rules were simple. All booths are open for sale with 2 exceptions. Save the handicap accessible seating for the people who need it, and do not sell the owner's booth. Ever. Never, ever. We were literally incapable of selling the seats in our system as the owner's booth is not coded normally. The owner's booth was coded so that only our manager and director could have authorizations to sell it. If the owner's booth was ever occupied, it was either him and some friends, or the owner who would call us up personally to say, "Hey, my friend so-and-so's coming to the show tonight. Give him my booth." So it was completely out of the hands of us frontline guys. Easy, right? One day, I was doing my thing selling tickets, and about 10 feet behind me, my manager was speaking to the director. This guy comes up, slicked back hair, 5 o'clock shadow, sunglasses in his t-shirt collar, looking like he spends his life on the beach. That kind of guy. He asked about a show, and I start to point out the closest available seats that I could find, which is standard practice, when he points to the big booth in the middle, and he says, "I want that one." I said, "I'm sorry, that's the owner's booth. It's reserved for him, and we can't sell that to anyone." He replies, "Oh, well, I know the owner. I'm actually his friend. I'm sure it'll be fine." I told him again that I'm not allowed to sell it to anyone. I'm sorry about that. And if you're friends with the owner, the only way you can get into that booth is if he calls us directly, or he comes in telling us that someone's going to be occupying that booth tonight. At this point, the guy gets out his wallet and drops a $100 bill on the counter. This actually wasn't uncommon, but usually it was like $10. Some people still thought it was that kind of showroom where you could slip a tip to the ticket guy for better seats. Not here, and definitely not the owner's booth. He said, "That's for you, and I'll pay for the booth. Come on, man, do me a solid. I'm the owner's friend." "I'm sorry, sir, but I just can't sell that booth to anyone. I'm not able or allowed to." The guy's getting pretty frustrated at this point and is starting to look at me like I'm in his way. And he says, "Look, can you get me your manager?" I agree and turn around to the 2 higher-ups behind me and ask for help. Now, they've been carrying on the conversation during this exchange, and they've heard the whole thing. I take a step to my left so my manager can get to my computer and talk to the guy. "Hi, how can I help you today?" He says, "Yeah, I was trying to get this booth for the show." My manager says, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, but that's the owner's booth. We don't sell that to anyone." Look, I know that's the owner's booth, but I know him personally, and he'd for sure let me sit in it. Come on, man. My manager responds, "The only way you're getting in that seat tonight is if the owner personally authorizes you to. Let me get him on the phone for you then if you know him so well." At this point, he realizes he's been caught and goes back to pushing that $100 bill into my manager's face. My manager tells him if he's not looking to buy seats tonight, then he needs to leave. He then turns around and leaves. I used to work for a well-known greeting card company in the UK. I had this customer come in. She spent about 30 minutes looking over the cards we had on display. She then picked the cards up and she wanted to come to the tills to pay. Once the cards were all scanned, she refused to pay the price, demanding a discount, to which I replied that I'm unable to give her a discount. She still refused to pay that price, saying she's friends with the CEO of the company and that she always gets discounts in the store. I'd been in the store over 18 months, and I'd never seen her before, and as the store manager, we're the only people allowed in the store to amend prices on the system, so she's never gotten a discount before. I replied, "If you were friends with the CEO, then they would have given you a discount card." She said she was never given one, so I replied again that I can't give her the discount. She then got very upset and started shouting that she was going to call the CEO and he was going to fire me for upsetting one of his friends. When she finished the call, she made this big song and dance, saying that I'll get a phone call in a second, telling me to give her a discount. Now here's the fun bit. Unknown to this woman was that 5 of the other people in the store at the moment were from head office, so I knew that I was not going to get a phone call at all. As the time went on, I said to the customer, "So, no phone call. Are you going to pay for these goods?" Now I knew the CEO was in fact a woman, and she was in my store watching the whole thing play out from a distance away. Once the CEO has had enough, she walked up to me and interrupted the customer and told her that she was the CEO of the company, and she told the customer that she was not going to get a discount for the goods, and if she didn't want to pay that price, then she could just leave. So the funny thing was, the lady didn't believe the CEO was the CEO, as she was not dressed in a suit, so she was very rude to her, calling her a lying bitch. At this point, the CEO was about ready to knock this customer out, but she didn't. Instead, she asked the customer to leave the store, but she refused, which is where we had to call mall security. Once they turned up, which was like a few minutes after, they removed the customer from the store and had her outside. And while she was out there, we had a banning order written up, banning her from the store. Just to really put the nail in the coffin, the security had to call police since she started to try and have a fight with them, so she got arrested and taken away. Moral of the story is do not lie to people. She paid a very heavy price for wanting a discount. This was definitely not worth it to save a few dollars on greeting cards. I hope you all take notes. If you lie about knowing the owner, you might get arrested, but probably not, because many of you are smart enough to say, "Hey, I'm not gonna lie about knowing someone that I really don't, because that's just silly." And that's it for today's episode of people lying and saying they know the owner when they don't. I hope you guys enjoyed the stories today. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because I release videos all the time. See you guys in the next one.